Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video we tell you how Holy Roman Empire worked. For at least half of its existence, the Holy Roman Empire was a perfectly ordinary feudal monarchy. It had its quirks, but in that respect it was no different to, say, France, or England, or the Spanish kingdoms, or Bohemia, or Hungary, or Poland. Everybody likes to quote Voltaire's famous witticism, but they forget that Voltaire was talking about the empire's dying days. After it had been gutted by the 30 Years' War and the Peace of Westphalia. In its prime, the empire was most definitely both Roman and an empire. And whether it was holy depends on your definition, but if the Holy Catholic Church counts as holy, then certainly the empire did too. The original empire was founded by Charlemagne on Christmas Day 800 CE. He had united most of the old Western Roman Empire beneath his rule, and capped his triumph by marching to the city of Rome itself. Either he or the Pope, the accounts are unclear, decided to consolidate his power by reviving the titles and dignities of the old Roman Empire after a 350-year interregnum. If we were discussing Chinese history, nobody would blink an eye to claim that the Tang or Ming were China, despite there being long gaps between dynasties. When there was no central government or parts of China were under foreign rule, but for some reason the same standards are not applied to Rome. And people quibble over whether Charlemagne had any right to that name. Charlemagne's accession ceremony was deliberately modeled on those of previous Roman emperors. He was acclaimed as emperor in the city of Rome, by the citizens of Rome gathered for that purpose, and then crowned by the Bishop of Rome, later on. Various popes would claim that they were the ones who gave Charlemagne his imperial crown, with the implication that they could take it away again if they chose. Charlemagne would have laughed at that idea. He was the king of the Franks and Lombards and the most serene and holy emperor governing the Roman Empire, God's representative on earth. And the Pope was just his senior bishop. The Church was under his protection, not vice versa. However, the unity of Charlemagne's Roman Empire only lasted a single generation after his death. His grandchildren fought among themselves, and the title of emperor became just one more prize to squabble over. In this atmosphere of uncertainty, the support of the Pope was seen as vital to demonstrate the legitimacy and status of whichever of Charles's descendants could secure it. Various popes cleverly exploited this weakness to boost their own status, and to establish the principle that an emperor could only take the Roman crown if he was blessed by the Pope. Nevertheless, the rise of the papacy to its own position of independent secular power was a gradual one. The investiture crisis of 1075 was over whether the Pope or the Emperor had the right to appoint new bishops throughout the empire, and note that this was the Pope claiming a power that the Emperor had always exercised in the past, not the other way round. The controversy was not resolved, in the Pope's favor, until 1122. Furthermore, the city of Rome was considered an integral part of the Holy Roman Empire until the Treaty of Venice in 1177, which recognized the sovereignty of the Pope over the city and its surrounding countryside. Charlemagne's empire had been a typical early medieval Germanic kingdom on a larger scale. There is evidence that he continued to think of himself primarily as king of the Franks even after being made emperor. He was the war leader of his people, gathering his nobles and their warrior households every summer to lead a campaign against his enemies, to pillage and plunder. Since his empire was so large, he campaigned with huge armies, for the time period, in places far afield, in the dry hills of Spain or the damp forests of northern Germany or the mountain passes of the Alps. However, Charlemagne also brought in many administrative reforms. He appointed counts, in Latin, comits, literally meaning companions, of the emperor, to govern each province of his empire. And each count was backed up by a bishop, also an imperial appointee, to handle the administration and paperwork as well as look after his people's souls. In troubled frontier areas he might also appoint a margrave or marquis, literally, border warden, or duke, literally, war leader, with greater powers than a normal count. We also have Charlemagne to thank for the introduction of the lowercase letters of the alphabet. He wanted a standardized way for scribes to write holy books and imperial edicts. And for the creation of the system of coinage, weights and measures that was used in Europe until the invention of the metric system 1,000 years later, and in some places is still in use today. As we've already seen, however, Charlemagne's empire fell apart on the death of his son Louis. 3 large kingdoms emerged from the ruins: West Francia, which later became France, East Francia, which later became Germany, and Italy, which stayed as Italy. The kingdoms of Burgundy and Lotharingia, Lorraine, also enjoyed a brief existence before being annexed or partitioned by their larger neighbors. The title of Roman Emperor became a mere status symbol, empty of real power, when the last Carolingian to hold the title, Berengar of Friuli, died in 924. No further emperor would be crowned for another 38 years.